Thank you for coming. What a great pleasure to be here in Jefferson, Iowa. It's kind of surreal, isn't it, where we have all these incredible leaders who've come and traveled to be part of this journey, and not just be part of it, but to make it succeed. Quick history lesson here. You know, and do people like to read books? Because I love to read history and think about what it had been like at that time, what happened. And, you know, there was a very engaging thing that happened here in history for those who've read about it. People from Jefferson probably know, but our visitors from the Silicon Valley probably don't know this, is back in the early 1900s when the train was being replaced by the automobile. The problem was that automobiles couldn't use the roads because they were built for walkers and for horses. So the first highway that went into this country was in 1913 called Lincoln Highway, and that and I say that for two reasons. One, I've got Link, and we've got Lincoln, and we've got The Guardian writing about Congressman Khanna channeling Abe Lincoln. So there's a lot of linkage going around for this. For those Encino Man fans. But in 1913, Lincoln Highway opened, and actually you could still get on the Lincoln Highway right here. It starts at Times Square, New York, and it ends in Lincoln Park, San Francisco. So you could get on this and still today drive it all the way there. And there's like a caravan that comes through like every 10 years, right? And it's like due next year. So that's a really cool aspect. So this is really a moment in history right now. So it's always easy to read it and think, well, gosh, how cool was that? But you look at what we're doing now with the digital highway we're building here, bridging our coast, bridging our nation in rural America, starting right here in Jefferson. This is something really special. And I want to thank Congressman Khanna for really being the bridge to the Silicon Valley. You know, we were getting this happening, but this is, there's just no question, just the amount of energy and acceleration, momentum that this is bringing, and all the leaders that have come. Thank you for coming. And tonight's a night it's okay to applaud. So this is actually designed to make sure people understand there's not like one person up here. You know, Chris, I know, is always trying to take credit for this. Just kidding. And it's tough, so, you know, growing up in Iowa, we always made the Minnesota jokes, but here I think it's Jefferson and Carroll, right? And I know Doug's here, so I'll be careful, but anyway, I won't go with the Jefferson Carroll jokes. But thank you all for coming. I know you all traveled a long ways to be here, and there's no direct flight to Iowa from Silicon. Yeah, actually there is, but probably not on a Saturday or a Friday. So thank you very much for coming. So this is designed where you're going to see a lot of speakers, and it's really lightning talks. Most are 2 to 3 minutes, some are 5 to 6, but each one is going to talk about why they care about Jefferson, why they care about rural America, what contribution they're making, and what we're doing. And when you see it, and this has been kind of designed to be mysterious unveiling, where you're going to see, and as the night progresses, and it's not, I shouldn't say night, this is an hour of speaking, you're going to see this progression of a picture unfolding here in Jefferson that is the model, you know, all the way from what your communities have done, what Chris is going to talk about, but this full spectrum, and you hopefully by the end you're just going to be going, wow, this is happening right here. And you know, there's a student section here. You know, this is for you guys, right? This is for Jefferson. This is for rural Iowa, and this is for rural America. And it always gets me emotional when I talk about it, and I'm fine with that because this is so important to the country. We've got to do this. There is nobody focused on rural America, right? I'm involved in so many urban development plans which are so important and we need to do, but you know, rural America has been left for dead. And me growing up in Independence, it's you know, it's just so apparent going through the small towns. We all know it. We all feel it. We see nothing doing, you know, nobody doing anything about it. And I know, you know, Congressman Khanna, you know, I see the heat that he takes in some of his posts with everybody going, why are you doing this in rural, and, you know, why don't you do it here? So anybody who's doing anything that's leading is going to take some heat for it. But, you know, the reality is, statistically, the latest data that came out was, and there's more studies to come, 78% of Iowans who finish a 4-year degree in STEM leave the state. So it's not like we're, you know, it's the same people. We're just staying in rural and we're able to stay with our families. And when we talk about not just what we're bringing here in jobs, just do the math. And I talked about this. So we had a student career day this week at the Forge. Think about the math of this. You can go, and Iowa State is a fantastic college, right? And I think it's one of the best computer science programs. Thank you. And when we hire somebody from Iowa State Computer Science, we train them for 6 months before they can actually do the job. This program in Jefferson, when they graduate our academy, they will be at the same level as in Iowa State with 4 years of computer science. The big difference is, when you go to a 4-year school, let's say we had 10 of these students standing up. At the end of 4 years, they're $65,000 to $100,000 in debt. They have no professional experience, and only 4 of them statistically are actually going to graduate in 4 years. 7 are going to graduate in 6 years. 3 are never going to graduate. And our program that we're bringing right here in Jefferson, the first in the country, and you tell me if you know this exists anywhere, right? You take 3 to 5 classes in high school in computer science. You finish your community college program at Iowa Central or DMACC. You go through our academy, and then that takes about 2 years out of high school to 1.5 years if you actually stick to it. And then you go into a 2-year apprenticeship program where you're making $65,000 a year. So let's compare this. Path A is your 4-year college approach, which is great, and if that's for you, you should do it. At the end of 4 years, 4 in 10 of you will have about $65,000 to $100,000 in debt, unless you have great parents and they were able to save. And just because they didn't have it doesn't make them great. I didn't get a nickel when I went from my parents, just for the record, so I get it. Or you can take this path of at the end of 4 years, you have $130,000 that you've earned, and you have 2 years of professional experience, and you've completed a apprenticeship program, and you're no longer a junior, you're actually a professional in what you're doing. That's a heck of a deal for somebody to do, and that's the program in Jefferson. So with that said, thanks for this free class. Yeah. So with that, and feel free to clap. I'm going to be introducing the folks tonight, but thank you, Congressman Khanna. If you'd come up, you're up. And again, we have a lot of speakers, and just so the speakers know too, I could not do what he just did. There's actually stairs right there, the speakers, and it's designed, if you see an empty seat next to you, you know you're next. Thank you, Congressman Khanna.
Thank you. Thank you, Jefferson, for welcoming us with such hospitality. Thank you to Link. It's been terrific. You saw the emotion that he had. But Link has just been an incredible partner. When I came here about 6 months ago, and Link started talking about what he and Chris and others are doing in Jefferson, and he said, could you get Silicon Valley interested? And I got to be honest with you, I was a little bit nervous because I've had a lot of pitches to people in Silicon Valley, and that my emails often don't get answered. But, you know, it's a high bar. But Link was so persistent, he said, I'll come out for a week to Silicon Valley. And he came out with the dean of Des Moines College and came out and said, I believe in what we're doing. And I started emailing some of the folks, I mean, leaders at LinkedIn and Microsoft. You're going to hear from them. Some of them are writing books on the future of technology. And they, I think, were just so blown away by your sincerity and by Jefferson and what we can do to bring our country together, to create jobs, to show that the digital revolution is one that every community should and can participate in. I'm so proud of the people who have come here, you know, taking time out, not worrying about their company's stock or their latest investment, as patriots, to do something that is good for our nation. There is no reason that we can't have the 180 or 200,000 tech jobs that have been outsourced being done in communities across this country. And there's no reason that we shouldn't believe in communities across this country like Jefferson. I mean, someone was telling me that Jefferson produces already all the gymnastics equipment and the trash compost manufacturing and the weight training equipment. So the innovation is here. What we need to do is make sure that the young folks have the opportunities to stay in Jefferson, to have a family in Jefferson, and participate in the new economy. And if we build these links, it's not just that Silicon Valley will be stronger, it's not that Jefferson will be stronger, it's what will allow our country to be stronger and win in the 21st century. So the good thing about this is when folks in the Valley from the district I represent is, We don't just believe in speeches, and so I'm going to sit down, but what you're going to hear is concrete commitments from folks about what this partnership is going to look like and how we're going to support the work Des Moines Community College, Iowa Central Community College, and Link and Pillar are doing to make this a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Khan, and I bet every person here just give you a big hug for bringing these folks here and being bridged, so thank you again. Chris Steele, community planner, author, I'm kidding.
Well, good evening, everybody. First, thank you, everybody, for making it out tonight. This is a fun event, isn't it? Yes. Thanks to this community for making it possible. Thank you, Link. This is your vision, and so we're just excited to be a part of it and to be able to be a partner to help bring it and to make it become a reality. And thank you to all of our guests for coming out and coming to Jefferson, Iowa, and getting to experience what we're trying to do here. We're a community. We believe, or we have a value that's based on homegrown entrepreneurship, a homegrown good old-fashioned Midwestern work ethic, right? And we have an incredible amount. You look around, we're a county of 9,000 people. Jefferson's a town of 4,500 people. For that size, we have an incredible amount of productivity, an incredible amount of industry here. Congressman Khanna, you already hinted at it. We've got products that are made here that are shipped all over the world, from balance beams to planters to garbage trucks. It's unique, and the basis for that is that work ethic. These are homegrown industries, homegrown companies that started here, have grown here, have decided to stay here because of the support this community has given to them. This is that same idea with what we're trying to do with this, right? Starting this here, it's going to have this incredible community support because we do believe in it. We're a community that has a history of being unique, of being creative. What better place to show that off than where we are right here, right? A theater in the middle of Jefferson, Iowa that brings shows right off Broadway, a historical furniture shop that's unlike anything you've probably ever seen before. Many of you just got to go up to the bell tower. That was a one citizen's vision, belief decades ago, that he would have that, he would create a landmark that would bring people here. We have this history of being unique, of being creative. We have a resilience. So rural America is struggling. Where other communities have taken a step back, we found the means to take a step forward. So in the last few years, we've had a $22.5 million hospital renovation. Downtown, we had 13 storefronts that were completely remodeled, changed the entire feel of our downtown. We have a local telecom provider that is incredibly progressive. Every household, every commercial business has fiber to it, and that fiber extends into the countryside. I live 3.5 miles west of here. I have fiber to my own house. It's incredible. It's creating opportunities that other people don't have. It's that mix of work ethic, it's that mix of entrepreneurship, it's that mix of resilience that we know is going to create this and allow this to be successful here. The community is wholeheartedly behind it. It was the financial support of the community that allowed it to get off the floor. It was the boots on the ground. Heck, there were people yesterday in the building who were scraping off flooring to help the demo process move along, right? Everything in between those two, the community is behind this. And there was no greater way for the community to show its support than what it did. April this year passed a $35 million bond referendum that was going to completely change how we educate our students. We'll break ground on a new high school this spring. With that, we'll break ground on a new career academy. And that career academy is the catalyst behind this. It's going to create opportunities for our students that they would not have had otherwise. And that can be in software development, it can be within manufacturing, many, many different ways. But it's people coming together, it's community colleges coming here. It's something that hasn't been done before. Iowa Central, you've been a great partner, but DMACC, you as well. This is unique. We are having students who are going to come here not only from our schools, but from this region around Jefferson and around Greene County. And it's because both institutions see the bigger picture. They see that we need to focus on opportunities for our students. And so we're incredibly excited. We're incredibly excited to have this happening here, and we're incredibly excited for where we're going with it, and we're excited to have you all here tonight. So thank you again. Let's enjoy it tonight, and then we're going to get right back to work tomorrow.
Yep, remember the stairs are over there. It's just me that can't do the stairs. So Kevin Scott is a CTO of Microsoft and has a incredible other resume, but also we have to give a little accolade to his wife Shannon, who's from Cedar Falls, Iowa. So that, Kevin, thank you for coming.
So I want to thank Link for having invited me here tonight, and the folks at Jefferson, Iowa, for having us. And I want to thank Congressman Khanna for making the introduction. I was incredibly inspired to learn about the work that Link was doing with the Forge program. The reason is I grew up in a small town in rural central Virginia, and Jefferson actually looks an awful lot like the nearest big towns from the place where I grew up. And you know, just sort of walking around today and sort of seeing the town and seeing the people, it reminds me a lot of where I grew up. These towns were incredibly close-knit. The community there was real and genuine, and the people cared about the people around them, and they cared about their community. And they fought hard to ensure that they had something that could endure over time. Now, I grew up as a kid in the 70s, and the industry in my small towns were tobacco, textiles, and furniture manufacturing. And one by one, these industries sort of went away as I was a little kid. And through some quirk of fate, I managed to find technology. I was a 10-year-old kid when the PC revolution kicked into really high gear in the early 80s, and I fell in love with programming. Even though neither of my parents had gone to college, and I lived in this, this really small town that was very far away from the epicenters of all of this technology and the PC revolution that was going on, I got really lucky. I was one of two kids in a really small high school who got chosen to go to a local science and technology magnet school. And from there, I managed to get a scholarship to a small local college and got a degree in computer science. And I was faced at that point with a really critical choice. I wanted to stay in Virginia. I wanted to be there with my community, with my friends and my family. But in order for me to pursue a career in technology, the career that I wanted to have, I had to leave. And that's the reason why I'm so excited and so hopeful about the work that, that Link and the people who are working on the Forge program are doing. I believe that this work can give young people in rural parts of the country here in Iowa an opportunity to stay where they want to be, to stay with their friends, their family, with their communities, to have opportunities for really great tech jobs, to build lives for themselves here, to build an economic foundation for both themselves and for the community through the jobs that they create. And I think it's crucially important for the tech industry and for America in general that we create these opportunities to have tech jobs and to have people participating in the creation of technology throughout the entire country. It's not great that we have these high concentrations of technology creation in just a few places. Technology is going to be one of the big factors driving our future forward for all of us, and it's really important for everybody to be able to participate equitably. So this is why my family foundation has made a financial commitment to Rural Ready Iowa to help get the Forge program off the ground, and it's why I'm writing a book that Link alluded to try to get more attention focused on both the opportunity that technology creates. I think it facilitates in unprecedented ways the ability to have work in places like Jefferson, Iowa. I think Link will say this over and over again, like when you walk into this Forge in your downtown, it's going to look like just any other high-tech company sitting in Silicon Valley. And like we already are at this place where we're doing our work collaboratively by video conferencing. We do a ton of our work using modern tools. It really matters less and less all the time where you're sitting. And so like these technologies will just continue to get better over time and allow us to have work happening where it makes sense for the people doing the work. So I'm really, really excited about this. Like I really hope that it's not just a success for Jefferson, but it is a role model that inspires people across the country to duplicate similar sorts of programs across all of our rural communities that so desperately need these opportunities. So thank you all very much.
Wow. Thank you. And he also didn't mention the very generous donation he gave to Iowa Central Community College for scholarships, which President Kenny will probably talk to. Chase Wilson, Director of Admissions from App Academy. So this is part of the mystery here when you go, okay, why is the App Academy? And one quick note, we've got Chase up here is Congressman Khanna said, hey, Link, when you're out here, you need to go to this place called the App Academy. And I'm like, okay, I've been to a million academies. We have our academy. And I walk in and I'm like, this isn't your normal academy. This is pretty flippin' cool and beyond pretty flippin' cool. So it really impressed my socks off. And fortunately, we were able to get them to be partnered with us. So thank you. Thanks, Chase.
Well, first off, thank you, Link, for the introduction and also for not telling me that I was going to be right after the CTO of Microsoft. So that was very, very helpful. So I'm Chase. I'm also from a very small town of 6,000, so this pretty much feels like home. We don't have a cool theater, but otherwise it's very similar. So, I grew up on a farm in Ohio. It's very similar in California, at least, to Idaho and Iowa. They're pretty much interchangeable, and we all also grow potatoes, all of us. So, but yeah, so I was an Eagle Scout when I was growing up in high school. Thank you.
Eagle Scouts.
I was in 4-H, went to the state fair all the time. And I'm also the son of a Lutheran pastor, so pretty much the quintessential Midwestern boy over here. So anyways, this kind of led me over eventually going into marketing and then going into Silicon Valley. And so definitely knew no one when I went to Silicon Valley. It's very difficult to move there from the Midwest. It's just not a thing you see many people do, so you're not usually inspired to do the same. So yeah, when I went out there, I started working for App Academy. Really cool program. Really glad I get to tell you all about it. Essentially, we are a coding boot camp. If you haven't heard of that before, we teach you everything you need to know to be a software engineer where you can work somewhere like Microsoft in 12 weeks. So not only that, the grads coming out of it average about $105K for their first salary coming out of the program with no experience before in the industry. And also, you don't have to pay until you actually get a job. So we have a program where all the cost is deferred until you're actually employed and you can pay us back. And beyond all that, why doesn't everyone go there? Well, like I just said, super hard to go to Silicon Valley or to New York, where our locations are. So really excited to say that we just launched online for the first time. So everyone, anywhere, will be able to take App Academy. And thank you. And we're also going to give a full ride scholarship to someone in Iowa to go to either the online course or to our locations in San Francisco or New York. So that's all I've got. Thank you, Link, for having me over here. But thanks, everyone.
So we're going to make sure that scholarship goes to one of our students here, and Jeff Wiley, if he's here. I don't know if Jeff came tonight, but he's got this, and this is one of his great students here. But that's like a $30,000 scholarship, so that's a big deal. Okay, so here's a big introduction. Anybody do a drum roll? So introducing Jefferson Population Plus One, A.J. Watling. So AJ is actually moving to Jefferson. He's an employee of Accenture, and he is going to be running the training program here. Yep, you're getting half a clap. I won't talk about what he's doing. He'll do that. And Lindsay Kitt, obviously one of her own loved from her own class. I know they're going to cheer for her, but thank you.
Well, hello, my name is Lindsay. I might have to pull that down. That goes. Okay. But so, with the Forge being so involved with the students, I wanted to give my own perspective of what I think of this as sort of insight to how our other students feel. And so to begin, I wanted to go back to middle school when I was given the opportunity to take a short little half-semester coding class with my classmates, and I found that I really actually liked it. And so then when I went on, I found that I there weren't really many of those classes in high school. And so then after that, I found that it was really hard to actually learn more. I looked online and I found that a lot of them were just the basics. A lot of websites offered to teach you coding, but it was all just the basics over and over again. And I lost interest in that pretty quickly. But then last year, we had a new teacher, Mr. Wiley, come in, and he was a teacher for geometry and coding, but then so I decided I would take one of his classes, and I actually found that I refound my joy of coding, even though I had lost it when I had been trying to find it with those websites that I was looking at. And so what I would really like to say is that what this company is providing is a lot of opportunities. When it comes here, there will be so many more opportunities that our students will have that normally we would never have in a rural community. What we're really going to be having is the opportunity to go to college with very little debt and go on to have, as he said earlier, to really be able to go on and just be a lot more successful than a lot of our other students would be. And also what I would really like to say is last Thursday we were all, me and some of my classmates were at the Forge in Des Moines, and we all were really excited to be there. We learned a lot about what it is, and all of my classmates were really excited, and I think we see a lot of that in the middle schoolers too, because they get to see all of this coming in, and when they get to high school they're going to be able to take these coding classes that we didn't really have until my junior year. And so overall, when we went there too, we got to meet AJ Watling, and so he talked to us a little bit about what he'll be bringing there, and I think I can pass it off to him so he can say the rest.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. So I saw the most interesting thing as Link started this whole, tonight, this whole thing. I saw a cat walk off the stage right there, and I thought, now wait a minute, if the cat is that motivated to wake up from his nap and attend this, we must be doing something right. All right, my next thing I want to say.
He's a software engineer.
Yeah. I mean, can you blame me? I see something happening and I have to overanalyze it. So I have a challenge for everybody speaking tonight. I grew up in a town of 150 people, so you have to go lower than me. And a farm doesn't count, only a town. It has to be an incorporated town. So there's your challenge tonight. So I'm just going to take a few minutes here and talk a little bit about what motivates me about coming to Jefferson, Iowa, and a couple of the key points that we want to accomplish, or at least start off with here. So I grew up in a town of 150 people, but I went to school in a town of about 14,000 people. I had to ride the bus. And I remember one day thinking, I'm not good at football, I'm not good at soccer, can't play an instrument to save my life, and I can't paint my way out of a picture if I got stuck in it. Until one day, the IT teacher in the department, or in the high school, came to me and said, hey, you should just take the software course. Of course, it's not available until you're a senior, and I was a freshman in high school. I was like, great, that's really helpful. But I took it my senior year, and it was wonderful because I realized I'm good at this. I love this, and I enjoy this. And then suddenly I thought, how many other people are there here at school who would enjoy taking this? Now, the class was limited to, like, I think 15 people a semester because there wasn't funding. I don't know how it worked. I was a high schooler, and I'm already overanalyzing how it happened in the past. But what I discovered there was I love writing software, and it's fun. And then I had the sheer terror of realizing that the only way I'm going to succeed in my career if I go into software is to move to Des Moines or Omaha or Dallas or New York or Los Angeles. And let me tell you, I don't like cities, not even Des Moines. I just don't like them. I grew up in a rural community. I want my big land. I want my horse. I want everything. And I want to keep it that way. And I realized when I came to Pillar a couple years ago that that passion hasn't died. And the best opportunity I have is here in Jefferson to help see that out for everyone else just like me. So last night, or yesterday, Link throws at me 3 points I'm supposed to make. So if I don't say it right and you don't understand it, go talk to this man. No. So what we want to do at Jefferson, and what I want to be the spearhead of helping and driving, is the training of students, high school level, and Link, you can get into the specifics of this, but training of students and even of people, if we get the capacity for it, and growing them in that ability to write software and the ability to deliver high quality products, because I don't think Jefferson can I think Jefferson can be not only a place where you deliver manufactured goods or services, but it can also be a place where you deliver high-quality software. I think that can happen in rural Iowa, and I think Jefferson is the first place for it to start. Now, the second point I want to make is, of course, nothing survives in business if you don't keep recruiting people. So we want to make sure that we're keeping people flowing into this system, not only training them, but retaining them and helping them grow in their career as well. The third point I want to make, and link, this is something I absolutely am still shocked at, is we want to make sure we bring these AAA projects out to rural Iowa. So not just these, throwaway projects that, oh, that was fun, I learned something interesting, but really things that deliver value and things that are impressive to the world. And I think I'm okay in saying this, Link, right? That we have this project from the San Francisco 49ers that we want to start and run and manage and complete here in Jefferson, Iowa, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to say in closing that, or closing of my remarks, is that we're all in this together. So I need everybody in Jefferson, Iowa, to be willing to help the students grow and help this initiative grow. It's going to be interesting, it's going to be painful, it's going to be wonderful, but it's going to be awesome in the end. So thank you all very much.
Well, AJ gets the most applause, so, but, he's new to your town. No corrections there, AJ, you did awesome. One note is we actually have positions posted here, so it's not just about recruiting, bringing the pipeline in of training and education, but it's also, we're actually going to have people, AJ's the first, but we've already had 3 applications for the position here in Jefferson. Don't know how qualified they are yet, but we actually helped somebody about 6 months ago move from California who said, I'm just too expensive, all the stuff. I want to move to Iowa, so I actually helped him move to Carroll because there was a company they were hiring because we weren't yet. Now I'm going to go snag him back in about 3 months. But and the 49ers are actually a partner of this also, so I want to thank them for being a partner. And Venue Next is a company that's their seed company, that not seed as in corn seed and stuff like that, but they actually funded it. We're in Iowa, I have to context that. So working with them, very exciting project, but AJ is going to be working on it here in Jefferson, so that was their contribution. Now, they're in the middle of their NFL season, so it's difficult. Their person they had that was going to be here couldn't make it at the last second, but very grateful for them to be a partner. Let's see. Make sure I'm going the right order here. President Tim Ritchie from the Tech Museum of Innovation. I think this is one of the most, come on up, President Ritchie. This is one of the most interesting and intriguing to me that it's going to be fun to hear President Ritchie talk. Thank you.
So I think you see the pattern. No one is really from Silicon Valley. Maybe a few people are. All of us came from somewhere else, and we know the power of somewhere else. Now, a lot of it's from the rest of this country, but there's also South Asia and East Asia and Europe, and we live in this melting pot where we know that talent is abundant everywhere. It's just waiting for an opportunity to burst into a white-hot flame. I came from Kentucky. I spent most of my working life in Alabama, North Carolina, and Kentucky. And I greet you as a son of those states. But I also want to greet you as someone who has been powerfully affected by a son of Iowa. This man was born in Burlington, and he was educated at Grinnell. He went on to create the thing that is shaping the world as much as anything is shaping it at all. He invented the semiconductor. You may know his story by now. He went on to be known as the mayor of Silicon Valley and one of the dashing founders of Intel. His name is Bob Noyce, and his picture is in my office to this day. But Bob Noyce started his journey as a young boy in Iowa's schools. He learned his love of engineering as a youngster and carried it with him in his career in tech. And that's why our organization, the Tech Museum of Innovation, is proud to be the K-12 partner in this effort. It starts young. It starts very young. And for the past 32 years, we have a curriculum called Design Challenge Learning that has proven to be effective, especially lately as the next generation science standards are adopted throughout the country, including here in Iowa, we are training now teachers that work with 30,000 kids a day to bring design challenge learning into their classrooms. And we're really thrilled to be able to work with the Greene County Community Schools and Superintendent Tim Christensen to bring that training here. We'll do 2 big trainings with all the K-4 educators and then with some of the high school educators as well who will self-select in for design challenge learning, a 2-day workshop in the spring, and then come back following up somehow in the fall. As we develop this partnership with Greene County, I think it's going to make a big difference here. I know it's made a big difference in Silicon Valley, but also because of the leadership of this organization, this is our first serious partnership outside of Silicon Valley. And if this works, it can go throughout this country. And I think that the kind of civic leadership you have here is really quite unusual, that you've brought us all together, and we are so optimistic. You know, communities change because of overlapping civil institutions. That's how it happens. And a lot of times, rural communities can't have that overlapping leadership that creates the conditions for change. But you have it here in Jefferson, and you should be happy for the leadership you have, and we're really proud to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
So I know me growing up in Independence, if I would have had that, and I'll say this, I did kind of a career day or a faculty day with Greene County, and the #1 question the teachers said is, hey, what can we start doing in kindergarten to get it prepared? So that starts in kindergarten through 12th grade to give these engineering, design, learning problems, real-world problems to solve. So I was just so grateful when Tim came into this picture. And speaking of Tim's, your very own Superintendent Tim Christensen. Thank you. You couldn't do the step either.
My legs are not long enough for it. The 2 things that are really important to me that they've kind of talked about here are curriculum and connections. Lindsay's correct. Here a couple years ago, we had very limited curriculum related to computers. When this whole thing came about, we hired a teacher last year, Jeff Wiley, that's doing a great job. But when this whole thing came about, I've met several times with Link, again, asking, what can we do? Because my sole goal, we've got Pillar Academy that's coming, we've got the Career Academy that's coming. What can we do, Greene County Schools, to prepare so kids can be successful? So again, what can we do at the elementary? What can we do at the middle school? What can we do at high school to make sure that they're successful? We're starting that, building that curriculum. This year we do have all of our middle school students that are involved in classes that Jeff Wiley's teaching, so that's extremely exciting. Again, as I look at curriculum though, the people that are here talking, look at the access we have to curriculum. It's fantastic, so thank you very much for that. The other part that goes along with that is just the connections. Think of the connections at Greene County Schools that we can have. Again, fantastic. I'm looking very forward to that. Something else that was mentioned before that to me is extremely exciting. Governor Reynolds has a goal initiative that 70% of students in Iowa have post-secondary training by the year 2025. For that to take place, all communities got to get involved in that, and the career academies, the Pillar Academies of the world. Those are the things that need to take place so that we can achieve that. So that's exciting that we've got that in Jefferson. And I'm very excited that, Lindsay mentioned as well, that students will have an opportunity to come out of the Career Academy, Pillar Academy, with post-secondary education, with no cost or very low cost. And that's, having 2 children in college, college is extremely expensive. So that's a great opportunity for kids, extremely excited about that. And the third thing that I'd like to talk about that I'm excited about is the concept of grow your own. There is a rural migrating to urban areas. We're trying to get people back, but that's a challenge as well. I believe that the Career Academy, the Pillar Academy, if we can create the jobs here in rural Iowa, rural America, the students will stay here, the population of Greene County will increase, the population of the Greene County schools will increase. Those are the things that rural areas need to do. So excited about that as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim. Are you going first, Rob? All right. Well, this is going to be fun. They said they were going to.
Wanted 3 minutes.
Yeah, and a wrestling match.
On stage to get 3 minutes.
Well, and I have to.
Competing president? No, I'm just kidding.
I have to preface this. What a great partnership this is. If you look at, DMAC, they, just this 1-2 combination of DMAC and Iowa Central partnering on this. I couldn't say enough about it, but I know these guys are going to talk about. How many places can you get two community colleges coming together to act like one? It's just, even now there's you can take, the classes are getting interchangeable between the two. So thank you guys for working together, for creating the model for us to extend this, because we have 15 community colleges. So there's a community college that covers every inch of soil in Iowa, and that's how we win every inch of soil, right? So thank you guys.
That doesn't count against our 3 minutes.
No, that doesn't at all. So, no, it is good to be here, and I think everything you guys have talked about is partnerships, and I think that's really important. And it is the partnerships at the community colleges too, working together. Working on our curriculum, and to make this expand, as you guys talk about. There's 15 of us that work together very closely, and you don't see that. I've come from other states, and you don't see that within the system of education, be able to work together and exchanging ideas and things like that. I think the most exciting thing for definitely for me is why do I get up every morning? It's those kids right there. It's the youth and what we're doing, and how do we continue to grow their minds and what we're doing. Excited about the partnership with Jefferson and Tim and the school district. We've had a long good partnerships through the years down here, and when I came down one day, Doug McDermott serves you guys very well, invited me down. I sat down with a group of individuals, and Chris is, why not Jefferson on a career academy? And I guess destiny happens that I was looking at a bond issue that failed. And if it hadn't failed, the career academy probably would have been somewhere else within this region. So we're excited as Iowa Central to be involved with that. But I think more importantly, I do have a couple thank yous. Mr. Scott, is your wife here with you this evening? Yes. Both of you, thank you. She's the important one. I definitely want to thank you, and students, you need to be thanking them too, because we talked about the debt that you talk about, and that continues to be a thing that education really looks at. And thank you for the donation to Iowa Central to help Jefferson County high school students into the future and working that. So we really want to thank you for that. And is Brad here with Ripley? Ripple?
Back here.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, too, and your wife, thank you, too. It's really going to help us. You talk about partnerships, again, a private-public partnership to help us get some of the computer labs and things like that up going at our career academy. So we do appreciate you for your donation on what you're going to do to really impact the students of Jefferson County High School and the career academy that we have here. So we thank you, all of you, for that, and it's great to be here. And you talk about your workforce. This comes out from the 15 community colleges, but I'm going to read the title. You can't really see it. Who's training your workforce? And right there is the state of Iowa and what we're doing as a community college system. So I'll turn it over to Rob.
Thank you very much. Des Moines Area Community College, we've got a campus 30 miles west of here, a campus 30 miles east of here, but we work together, and we're very pleased to be able to provide, as early as January, a 3-credit computer science course on Java, so that the students here will be able to start their careers leading to Link and the Forge. There are a number of DMAC people here. There's 4 of them out here. If they'd raise their hands. If you have any questions later, be sure to ask them. If they're not wearing their pin, let me know, because I pay attention to that stuff. I've got a speech that I give on Iowa history. I'm the first native-born Iowan to be president of Des Moines Area Community College. Very proud of that. I came from a farm in eastern Iowa next to a town of 80, but not quite 150. But I did this whole speech on Iowa, the first computer in the United States, the first woman to be an attorney in the United States, the first woman to be in the Indianapolis 500 and the Daytona 500, and it goes on and on and on about firsts in Iowa. And I always end by saying, by now, you probably agree with me that Iowa's better than sliced bread. At which point I say that the bread slicer was invented by Otto Rohweder, Davenport, Iowa. So someday mark down this night, because this is the start of a revolution. I know that we'll hear more about this later, but the governor has a great initiative called Empower Rural Iowa. It will take into the rural communities in Iowa some of the life and force and excitement that the Forge is doing here tonight. So this is a great move, and I look forward to watching this happen all over the state of Iowa. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And thanks, MD, because when we took the trip out there, he was just a trooper for 7 days, and we can't talk about, we got out of barely alive out of a couple of the situations. We had a couple of drivers, we won't name the driving service. Director Beth Townsend from Iowa Workforce Development and Future Ready Iowa. And, you know, so super short before she starts, is when we started this, we actually called the program, and my title was Vanguard of Future Ready Iowa, because we partnered so close on this, and I just cling to their vision saying this is what we want to do. So Future Ready Iowa was such an inspiration for me in getting this going, so thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Link, for having us. We're so welcome, or we're so glad to be here as part of this. What's going on here, as Rob said, it's a revolution. Future Ready Iowa was designed to create the overall strategic plan for the state of Iowa to be able to develop its workforce. What we're seeing here in Jefferson, Iowa is the picture, or the poster child for what we want to do all across Iowa. And I hope, Congressman Khanna, thank you so much for coming, number one, but I hope that what you see in Iowa, the reason that we're winning and the reason that we're doing it is we have three things going for us that I don't think you're going to see combined as well anywhere else in the country. All due respect to Silicon Valley. Number one, we collaborate. We collaborate across all levels of education, all levels of government, all levels of business and industry, from our four-person small business up to our Vermeers and John Deere's of the, that have global markets around the world. We also have a strong commitment to finding local solutions for local issues. And that's exactly what you're seeing here, is community leaders, businesses, educators from this area came together to develop a plan to address the local issue and to provide the kind of training opportunities they want to see for kids like Lindsay. We also have, number three, strong leadership. Strong leadership across our communities, our government, our business and industry, and in our education. Governor Reynolds, I know, would have been here, except that she was on a well-earned and well-deserved vacation to spend some time with her family after the election. But she is absolutely committed to making sure with Future Ready Iowa that 70% of our workforce has post-secondary training and education. Because we recognize that without that, we are going to see what happens in rural America, what I have seen. AJ, I can't beat you in terms of the size of my community. I grew up in a town of about 1,000 people, but I can beat you in the fact that I went to a school, 23 kids in my class. We were one of the big classes, and 12 of us went K-12 together. So if you can beat that, bring it on. But I have seen what happens in small communities where you don't have this type of partnership and where you don't try to make these types of steps to address problems that we're going to have in the future, and making sure that our kids want to live here and have something to do when they get here. So we're so glad to be here and be part of this, and we look forward to helping you as much as we possibly can and working strongly with our partners in this effort. Thank you.
And did Greg Huber, has he arrived yet? Oh, Greg's here, great. I've been waiting for Greg because he works for the BioHub, and he's going to have a, so again, each of these organizations talk about something different that they're bringing to the table, but this is what I was exciting about, is the BioHub is a consortium of the Chan Zuckerberg, Stanford University, UC Berkeley, and UC San Francisco, or the University of California of those. So four groups like that making a consortium sounds like it's got to take somebody really smart to do it. So this is, we haven't met yet, we've talked on the phone, so I'm expecting a brainiac here, so thank you.
Thanks for the invitation. It's really nice to be in this beautiful part of the country. I grew up in a small town called Philadelphia. My high school had 3,000 students in it, I think. So I feel like I'm really tied to this community in a deep way. Happy Hanukkah, everyone. But I think, in fact, so the BioHub, maybe I should say a little more, we're a basic science research institute. It was formed by Priscilla Chan and Mark Zuckerberg about 2 years ago. And they picked really terrific people to lead it. They had an ambitious goal, which was to cure, manage, or prevent all human disease within 100 years. And that's debatable, if it's even possible, but it's a really ambitious challenge, and I think we're all committed to do our best to see it happen. Myself, I'm not a computer scientist. I don't have Twitter. I do Facebook. I'm a physicist. I'm a biophysicist. But in my view, in the modern world, computer science and biology are tied together like this. You know, inside of all of your cells, almost all, you've got 3 billion base pairs. A base pair has 2 bits of information. So you've got 6 billion bits in your DNA, and that is constantly being translated by similar bits into RNA and then into protein machines. And so what we really study, in a sense, is the machines which act like computers that are making up the human body. And so it's hard to separate what's going on in computer science in Silicon Valley with what's going on in modern biology and biophysics. So what we are doing here, we'd like to find brilliant people. And it's our belief that we want to have the most diverse workforce possible, and that brilliant people are everywhere. And if with Link's help, we're going to find brilliant people here in Iowa, and we're going to have externships and internships and see how that works out. So we haven't ironed out all the details yet, but I'm confident it's going to happen. And well, I'm happy to talk to any of you about, you know, the details of what we're doing. Thank you.
So that's our goal here, is to get some of these students to get internships, paid internships, by the way, Greg, paid internships, at the BioHub in San Francisco. And is it San Francisco or Silicon Valley? All right, so that will be cool. Madhu, CEO of Beyond HQ. And this is a fun one, because this puts the puzzle again together of this partnership with the Silicon Valley and the unique contribution. So by the end, you're going to be going, wow, this is one of the wows.
Hey everybody, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I want to talk to you about Beyond HQ and what brings me to Jefferson, but a couple of points before I do that. So I've spent the last 15 years in Silicon Valley. I went to graduate school there. I've been building startups, either as an early employee or as a co-founder. And I go to a lot of events where, you know, good speakers, famous speakers come along and speak. And the caliber of people here and the folks that you've been listening to, this is not normal in under one roof. It's incredible. So I want to give you guys an opportunity to give a round of applause to Link and everybody else that managed this. So I am, first of all, wanting to say that it's pretty exciting to be here in Iowa on the ground, quite literally. And the reason is that the last couple of years I spent studying Iowa from space. My past job over the past couple of years was looking at satellite imagery and analyzing the Corn Belt, and most importantly Iowa, and looking at the last 30 years of NASA images to see if we can predict how much corn and soybeans will come to market in the future. So in some ways I feel like I already know Iowa, even though this is my first time here. So it's great to be here on the ground. So Beyond HQ, we are a company that is focused on helping startups and other growing companies build highly effective distributed teams in locations all around the country. For a variety of reasons, as we've touched on earlier, a lot of Silicon Valley companies are looking to expand their workforce outside of Silicon Valley. And the past few months I spent talking to about 30 startups, CEOs, COOs, heads of growth, etc., on understanding the challenges that come with expansion. And so Beyond HQ is born as a result of a need for such a solution. And in a nutshell, we're essentially expansion as a service. We work to identify locations all around the country that have strong local talent, supportive local community, a strong list of partners, and then we recommend the right location for the right startup. And then we also, once the decision is made, project manage the expansion from the moment the decision is made all the way through to having the remote team up and running in the new location. And then finally also serve as a local operations concierge for that new team to help them grow and thrive and stay connected with headquarters. So we identify, expand, and align. That's kind of the pitch for Beyond HQ. And then my reason for being in Jefferson actually goes back to a couple of months ago when I met Link and Dean Isley from DMAC, who we were introduced through Greg Sands, he's one of my investors, and he's going to come after me here. In just that one meeting, I think both Link and Dean Isley essentially educated me on all the things that are happening in Jefferson, including the R3 initiative, Future Ready Iowa, and then that was a tremendous amount of potential that was displayed. And as Chris talked about work ethic and resiliency, and Beth talked about collaboration, these are the very same characteristics that are required in successful startups. And so it's phenomenal to see these come together. So I'm here really to learn more and see how I can help contribute to showcasing Jefferson and other communities as strong options for growth for startups in Silicon Valley. So, thank you.
So this is Iowans, this is a roll up your sleeves moment. So what he just said is, we're going to open a remote office here for a West or East Coast company where the employees are here and they're employees of those companies, the salaries, the benefits, and we need to do such an awesome job, they just go, we're going to move our second office here too, and the next company here. So that's our part of it. That's what a partnership is, right? They do part and we do part. So thank you, Madhu, for bringing that to Iowa. And, you know, and Greg is probably the funnest speaker I've maybe seen in a while. And he's just a really dynamic. When I went out and met him, I'll just let you judge it for yourself, but he's going to do some fun stuff. But Greg is the CEO of, is it Costanoa?
Costanoa.
Costanoa. Thank you, Greg.
Okay, great. I don't know that I can live up to my billing. So I grew up north in Minnesota until the other Greg came in. I thought I was going to get to say that I came from the big city, from Minneapolis. So instead I'll note that as I grew up, my father always made jokes about people driving Iowa style. And so to Minnesota, driving Iowa style is you go on a double date and the two guys sit up front and the two women sit in the back. That's the way it rolled in my family. So I am, having grown up in Minneapolis, I now live in Palo Alto, California. I'm what one would think of as a Silicon Valley venture capitalist. I started a firm called Costanoa Ventures, which invests in early stage companies. So somewhere between a couple of people and 20 PowerPoint slides to 20 people and a couple $1 million of revenue. And they're typically software companies, and they build software that is sold to businesses as opposed to consumers. So not Facebook, not Instagram, but companies that build software for businesses. So why am I here? Well, you know, to me, it comes really from fundamental core beliefs. And the core beliefs are that people need ladders of educational and economic opportunity everywhere. And education isn't a one-time thing. It doesn't happen or not happen when you're 16 or 18 or 20. And that economic opportunities compound over time. And so I keep looking for any opportunity to be involved with something that just can build on itself. And when I first moved to Silicon Valley in 1992, it was right after the LA riots, the Rodney King riots of 1992. 6 friends and I started a microenterprise program in East Palo Alto, which that year was the murder capital of the country. And so Congressman Ro Khanna calls me and he says, I have someone that I want you to meet. And so I had the great pleasure of meeting with Link. And, you know, I was honestly, the reason I'm here is that I was inspired. And I was inspired because I think this is the most important stuff that we have to do together and we have to do as a country. And we've had the opportunity to invest in a couple of companies that get to contribute to that. So education companies like Quizlet, which hopefully, you know, some of the high school kids and college kids in the area use. Springboard lets people build careers in data science that don't have a data science degree. We've got a company like BugCrowd that lets people hunt for bugs in software and get paid to do that, and while they do that, they earn credentials that ultimately often end up letting them get a job in cybersecurity. So I get to do little bits of this in my day job, but I do think it's the work of the country. It is the work of this era, and I was just really inspired and excited to be here. So I'm a fortunate investor in Beyond HQ and thrilled to do that and think that helps with some of the economic integration of our country. Hopefully economic integration can help with social integration. And at the same time, it's also the case that Iowa is capable of creating companies in Iowa and for Iowa. So I told Link that I'll come back in June when the building's open, and we'll do a Shark Tank and all invest $50,000 in the winner of that competition, and am excited to help Iowans create their own companies here as well. Thank you.
So what that means is when they do the Shark Tank, when Greg does that, they're not going to Des Moines, they're not going to New York or Chicago, they're going to Jefferson. So the entrepreneurs across the state of Iowa will come here to pitch and get feedback and to get that venture capital money. That's a pretty big deal. That's going to happen here. And by the way, that's going to coincide with the, and this is my chance to drill Chris, is with the Forge grand opening, which should be near the end of May or early June. June. Oh, we're moving it to June. Okay, so June. Is Zach here yet? Is Zach? Oh, great, Zach. And most people know Zach, but I always called Zach the creative genius who can walk into any place and see what it could be, and I walk into it going, it's a building. So he's an incredible community planner and a great friend. So thanks, Zach, for coming tonight.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name's Zach Mannheimer. I do creative placemaking, and no one knows what that is. Creative placemaking, for those of you who took part in the work that we did here in Jefferson and Greene County for the last year, you know what it is, but essentially creative placemaking is how do you grow population and economic development through cultural and cultural and entrepreneurial ideas. That's what the goal is. And I had a super slick PowerPoint presentation that I completely fell apart on my way here. I got here late because my oldest daughter performed in the Nutcracker this afternoon, so I just walked in, so I'm really happy to be here. I'm sorry I wasn't here earlier. But we've been working in Jefferson and Greene County for the past year. And some of the things that we've encountered you've heard tonight, and this is something because of what Link and the Forge is going to do. We're going to see a dramatic shift in rural landscapes. And this is something I firmly believe, that rural America is the next place to pioneer. And that's not a very popular idea where I'm from. I also grew up in the small town of Philadelphia, so thank you for the Hanukkah wishes. I appreciate that. And I grew up in a town just outside Philadelphia called New Hope, a rural community of 2,500 people. And by the time I graduated high school, it was no longer rural anymore. It got sucked into Philadelphia, and it became suburban. And I never really wanted to see that happen again. And I love this space because I graduated with a theater and philosophy major from college, so I had absolutely zero job prospects when I graduated. And is Robbie, are you here somewhere?
I'm here.
Hey. This looks like a great room. How many people have been in here before tonight? About half. All right. So, Robbie, you're going to be shaking some hands with people on your way out. Yes. So, I did theater and philosophy. I moved to New York City. I lived in Brooklyn for 10 years, running theaters and restaurants, and quickly realized the last thing New York needed was another theater or another restaurant. And I knew I wanted to leave because I looked around Brooklyn. And I looked around, everybody looked like me, thought like me, acted like me, played like me, ate like me, and I didn't feel that that was very healthy, either as an artist or as a human. And I knew I wanted to leave, but I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. So over the summer of 2007, I did a cross-country road trip. I drove to 22 cities around the country to figure out which city I wanted to live in. And I was specifically looking for a community that was roughly 500,000 people in the metro, compared to New York is rural, a city that had a downtown that needed to be revitalized, a city that was struggling to attract and retain the next generation of workforce, a city that was doing great art but was not recognized nationally, and a city that was as close to 50-50 politically as I could find. And Des Moines checked all my boxes. I didn't know anybody in the state of Iowa when I moved here in 2007, and now I've got a wonderful wife and 3 kids, and that's what happens when you move to the Midwest. So the reason why I came was specifically to start a nonprofit called the Des Moines Social Club, which is an arts and educational nonprofit in downtown Des Moines. MD Isley, sitting right here, was a major reason why that became a success. The Social Club today serves over 300,000 people annually and produces over 800 different events in every artistic discipline every year. And I ran that for about 8 years. And then I shifted because I saw something happening in rural Iowa specifically. Today, I do work in creative placemaking in 18 different states around the country and 1 province of Canada. And we see rural America as the next place to pioneer. And it's based on a couple of different things. First of all, there's a couple myths about rural America. The first myth is this: there are no good paying jobs in rural America. And those of us who live or work in rural know that that's simply not true. The reality is there are lots of good paying jobs in rural America. The problem is that we don't have people to take the jobs. And we need to get more people to take the jobs. The second myth we hear all the time wherever we go is we need more tech jobs, tech jobs, tech jobs, tech jobs. And this is something I know the Congressman talks quite a bit about, that every job, every new job created from here on out is a tech job. And we have to give them that training. And the third myth that I hear all the time for any of these projects that we want to do is that there's no money. Where's the money come from? And I have a very unpopular opinion that money is never the problem. A lot of people disagree with that. But money is never the problem to create any of these great ideas that we want. Look at what Link is able to do with the Forge here in Jefferson, as well as so many other ideas which we're going to talk about in a second. That's what's going to be here in Jefferson. But money's not the problem. It often is hard to find. It takes a while. But it's there if you're willing to persevere and you've got great leadership. So we know we can get there. And specifically, when you're thinking about how to get people into a community, the old economic model is let's throw incentives, tax incentives or otherwise at companies to entice them to move to our community and create as many jobs as possible. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But the problem is it no longer works anymore, especially in rural communities. The amount of money that Jefferson has is not very different than the amount of money that Carroll has or Denison has or Harlan has or Burlington has. It doesn't matter. Even on top of that, it doesn't matter how much money you throw at a company to move to your community. They're only going to move there if they have talent to hire. So we have to figure out how to bring them in. And so we start from the ground up. We create the amenities that the next generation of workforce are looking for without alienating folks who have lived in these communities all their lives. These are things like cultural centers, breweries, restaurants, daycare facilities, parks and recreation. All of these pieces are what the next generation needs, especially housing. There's a major housing shortage across rural America. Same problem in rural Iowa exists in rural Mississippi. Identical. So how do we figure out ways to overcome that? There's 2 ways to get talent to come in: having those amenities that's going to attract them, and building from within. Building from within is what the Forge is going to be doing. They've already been doing it in Des Moines. I've watched it happen, seeing my good friend Link build all of that, and it's going to happen here in Jefferson. So we have this great opportunity to take advantage of right now. And this is also an interesting statement that I hear all sorts of things about. But regardless of your political persuasion, regardless of what you may think of our current president, for the first time in 100 years, rural America elected a president. That's a really big deal. And I don't see that being taken advantage of in rural communities that we go to throughout the country. We need bold ideas, things that are going to get people's attention. That's why we're all sitting here today. The ideas that are happening in Jefferson are bold beyond belief, and it's going to be sweeping across the country that we're already beginning to see. So how do we act upon that? And how do we incentivize more people to come? Because it's not about incentivizing companies, it's about incentivizing people. How do we get people to move to a community? And this idea of keeping people in a community that grow up there is great. However, I'm not a big advocate of that. If you grow up somewhere, you graduate high school or college somewhere, it's natural to want to go off and see the world. And I think you should. And hopefully you come back when you're ready to start a family, and you bring the ideas and things that you saw back to your community. But the problem is this: where's the kid that grows up in Chicago, she graduates University of Chicago, and she says, I want to go off and see the world? Why is Jefferson, Iowa not the world? Why do we have to say Iowa after the word Jefferson? We have to qualify it. We need to make that happen. We need to be importing talent just as much as we're exporting. In fact, more so. And that's what I think the Forge is going to be able to do. So there's been a bunch of things that we've worked on here in Greene County over the past 2 years of work. And I'm going to show you a short video in a second that highlights several of them. But I'm here to say that there has been more activity and more investment in this area of the state than any other county that I've been to of this population size. If you track net migration, which of course everybody does, from the east or west side of our country, if you look at all of the cities on the east and west coast of our country, they're completely oversaturated. If you're a young person moving there, entrepreneur or creative, it's the last place you should be. If you truly want to pioneer, rural America is where you should go. Those places are oversaturated, people are leaving, and they're leaving by the thousands. The last 15 years, where did they go? Minneapolis, Kansas City, Nashville, Austin, Denver. Those cities today are oversaturated. 20 years ago, nobody was saying, boy, I can't wait to move to Minneapolis. Not a chance, despite what our Minneapolis friend might think. They weren't saying that. Today, you can't afford to live in Minneapolis. 100 years ago, nobody was saying that about San Francisco. 60 years ago, nobody was saying that about Brooklyn. Those cities are oversaturated now. The cities that are seeing population growth dramatically right now, Des Moines, Boise, Idaho, Little Rock, Arkansas, Birmingham, Alabama, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Grand Rapids, Michigan. These are the places seeing population growth right now, rapidly. And by 2030, those cities are going to be oversaturated, which is a crazy thought, that a place like Des Moines, that most people in the country don't know how to pronounce, that is going to be oversaturated by 2030. So what does that mean? Where else is there left to go? Most people are going to be pushed out, and the first three types of people to be pushed out of a community: artists, entrepreneurs, and immigrants. And not surprisingly, those are the three types of people that help make communities unique. So they're going to be pushed out. They're looking for places to go. They're only going to go to the places that offer the amenities they're looking for, and it helps a lot if you're within a 90-minute drive of that metro. And look at where we are geographically. Jefferson is situated perfectly inside that circle. People are going to come. At first, they're going to work, they're going to commute, and then they're going to stay. So we need to build those things, and that's the work that we do, is building those amenities, writing those business models, finding investment and resources, and putting stuff into, we never say vacant or empty buildings, we say available buildings, all throughout rural America. That's the goal. The work that's happening here in Jefferson is incredibly unique. You've already heard all evening about all that. So how do we take it a step further? There's a couple projects that I want to highlight, and Jason, if you don't mind playing the video, we'll let that speak for itself.
That's pretty awesome. So we have 2 speakers left. Mitch Matthews, from a true best-selling author, unlike Chris Steele, creator of the #1 Huffington Post rated podcast Dream, Think, Do, and founder of the Big Dream Gathering.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here, and when we were talking through the roster of impressive speakers, and Link said, I'm going to put you at the end, and I said, why? And he said, because you get to invite everybody to a party. And I said, okay, I'm in. That sounds great. So what I've got about 3 minutes to do is tell you a little bit about the Big Dream Gathering, because we're going to be bringing one to Jefferson here soon. I do Big Dream Gatherings all over the country, and this thing got started actually in Des Moines, just down the road. The Big Dream Gathering got started a few years ago. As an entrepreneur, I was working on one of my own big dreams, and maybe some of you have had this kind of experience where everything had been going great, and then over a period of about a month, everything fell apart. And I'll never forget, on a Saturday morning, I'm sitting in my office, and I'm feeling like we've run out of options, we've run out of time, we've run out of money, and hopefully none of you have ever experienced that, but maybe some of you have. And I remember I was just trying to figure out how to give up on this dream, how to walk away from this dream that I'd had. And I got hit with just this realization. And the realization was I was trying to do it by myself. And then I thought, well, maybe I could ask some of my friends for help on this dream, this thing. And then I had a second realization, and that was, if I'm going to ask my friends for help on my dream, I should probably know what their dreams are. Maybe I could help them out in some way. And so I hatched this idea to have a party at our house, and I decided to call it a Big Dream Gathering, because I thought if I called it a Big Dream Committee, nobody would come to that party, right? And I went to my wife and I said, I've got this idea, and this is proof positive that I married up, because we are out of time, out of options, and out of money. My big solution, a party, right? But we invited some friends to our house to do this thing where I said, let's write our dreams down on sheets of paper, let's put them up on the walls, and then let's walk around and see if we can help each other out. Simple idea. And we made it, we said, let's do it, and we made it for Tuesday night, and we thought it'd be a couple of hours, and we lost control of it. It was absolutely amazing. We thought it was going to go for a couple of hours on that Tuesday night. We lost control of it. It went for a full week, which was really cool and kind of weird. All at the same time. The people we invited came, but then they started to invite people, and then just strangers started to show up at the house to post their dreams at the Dream House. And it was just incredible. And after that, a lot of people let us know that they'd actually gotten help with their dream. Our dream got back on track. We were able to create a product and get it in stores by that Christmas. But other people got help with their dreams. A couple of people launched companies. A couple of people launched nonprofits. Somebody got $1,000 to go help some kids in Africa. And it was amazing. People kept saying, we got help. But the biggest thing was they said, thanks for creating a space where we could all dream. And then also, thanks for creating a space where we could do it together. And so we decided to keep going with these Big Dream Gatherings, and now we get to do it all over the country. We do these all over the country. We just got back from doing one in Oregon, and we were in Reno. We've done 25 this year. But as Link and I were talking about all the amazing things that were happening here, I said, gosh, I would love to do a Big Dream Gathering just to fuel even more dreams. You are a community of dreamers. And I thought, gosh, I wonder what other dreams we could cultivate. What other dreams are out there? They just need that space to just happen. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to work with leaders here to be bringing a Big Dream Gathering, to have some fun, to dream together, and to help each other, again, to cultivate and give that space permission to dream even more, but to collaborate and make even more of those dreams happen. So we'll stay tuned for when that party's going to be, but it's going to be soon. And again, we can't wait to see what even more dreams come out of this amazing community. So we can't wait to see it happen. So thank you.
Can you talk about small town big dreams?
Oh, yes. So also one of the other aspects of this is we're working on a TV project. We've been doing videos and featuring our Big Dream Gatherings, but also featuring dreamers in each area that we go to around the country. And one of the things was we were looking back and we were moving forward on a TV project. One of the things I realized is that my favorite Big Dream Gatherings that we've done, 50 over the last few years, have been in small towns. Just amazing stories come out of small towns. We get dreaming big, and we get dreaming big together. And so we're working on a TV project that will be called Small Towns, Big Dreams. And we'll be featuring small towns, people walking out dreams, because we get it, right? I grew up in Newton, Iowa, right? My dreams started in a small town just like this, and we get dreaming, and I want to show the rest of the world that, and I think that that's a part of it too. So, and Jefferson's going to be a part of that. So we're so excited and so honored to get to be a part of what you guys are already doing and to help, again, ignite even more dreams. So thank you so much.
So I was hoping he'd throw in that Jefferson's going to be the pilot episode of his Small Town Big Dreams, but he didn't throw that in yet. But we're gonna try to make that happen. So our final speaker tonight, which I really wish I wasn't saying because I could listen to people like this all night, just incredibly inspiring what they're bringing here. But Alan Ballou, the VP of Product Management and co-founder of, I hate to do this, LinkedIn, another link. We got the link.
I've been hearing people say Link's name all night, and every time I like, wait, was that us? Anyway, so thank you all for having all of us here to come talk to you about this tonight. So I actually have an Iowa connection. Oddly enough, my dad grew up in Marshalltown, which is actually not that far away, and I'm not going to be able to visit. I have not been there since the tornado, so I don't know. I'd be kind of sad to go back and see where things are. I understand they're doing well, though. So coming back from it, I mentioned my dad specifically because he grew up in Marshalltown, and then he left, like many people and like the people we're concentrating on now. He left because he wanted to be an airline pilot, and so he decided he was going to go to Chicago, Illinois, and which is where he met my mom. And we lived right around the airport in Chicago, which is where I grew up. But the thing he brought with him from Iowa, or at least the thing I think he brought with him from Iowa, was a sense of responsibility for the world around him. He was a guy who, when the church roof needed repairing, he was the guy who jumped in and raised the money to make it happen. When the local mayor was trying to get elected, my dad's like, okay, I can be your part-time campaign manager to make that happen. He brought all of that stuff with him. He took the initiative where a lot of people would have hung back and wouldn't actually have stepped up and made it happen. And I think that is something which is absolutely essential to the success of the kind of projects you all are doing here. In 2012, I was on a panel. We were talking about the future of work and automation and all this stuff. And the person who was next to me on the panel was a community college president from the Carolinas. And he was talking about how he had solved the skills gap in his area, which I thought was amazing. It was kind of a big claim because it's actually a really hard problem to solve. And I asked him, how did he do it? And he said, well, none of my students were getting jobs, so I just went and talked to all the local employers, and then I created some classes to teach them how to do the things those employers needed. And now I've got 85% placement rates coming out of my school, which is a really great result. But the thing I've always taken away from that story was his initiative. He was a person who took responsibility for those students to make it work for them. And he went out and did the hard work necessary to provide that bridge. And when I look at this project, you guys clearly have leadership. So the people who are here tonight who are working on this project, the two of you, this whole community coming together to support this project, and all the people we've heard, the great vision we just saw for what Jefferson could become, just amazing. I will say, though, that leadership is not always enough to make it happen. You also need innovation. And one of the great pleasures for me for thinking about the future of work is that I've been able to meet a lot of really innovative people who've thought about stuff. So there's a guy called Gerald Chetravanian. Some people know him. He founded a company called Year Up. And Year Up is this great organization. What they do is they take kids who are graduating from high school who don't really have futures in front of them, They give them 6 months of training as IT people, and then they take them into companies for 6 months, and they work for companies. Companies pay them full-time salary and so forth. LinkedIn has a bunch of these kids working as our IT people. And then these people are the kids coming out of it, like people compete to hire these people. It's like really an amazing program. And that was an interesting idea. It was something new. And basically what he's doing is apprenticeship on demand. It's kind of a fascinating model. And I'm pleased to say that LinkedIn has been helpful to him over the years, trying to figure out ways to extend the curriculum to do new stuff. Because in the end, he's got a model that works and he's trying to expand it. That is innovation. And again, you guys have innovation here. The thing that excites me most about this project is that it's a novel combination of things to produce these results. There's a lot of work left to do to make it successful, but with the leadership being provided and the new model that you all are trying here, you have the potential to create something really great. And the third piece, because those two actually aren't enough, the third piece is collaboration. So hearing about the Future Ready Iowa and about the collaborative work that you and community colleges and in education are doing with the people here in government, whether it be bonds and so forth, with entrepreneurs who are coming up with these innovators who are leading these interesting initiatives, these things are an incredibly powerful combination. LinkedIn did a project in Denver, and we were working on closing skill gaps in Denver. And one of the biggest learnings out of it is that there was a group of people who were absolutely essential to closing the skill gaps. And it was basically career counselors, people who could help individuals decide what to do, just somebody to support you as you make those changes. And in Denver, we LinkedIn, we didn't know those people even existed. But in Denver, we discovered those people. And when it works there, it works because the community colleges are working with the employers, are working with the trade schools, are working with the local government, are working with these nonprofit organizations who are basically providing this navigation facility for individuals so they can make these things successful. And, sorry, you guys have that collaboration as well. Just hearing the stories about the way the school bond came together, listening to the way that all of you are working together as a unit, as we would say in the Valley, tightly aligned but loosely coupled. You guys are doing great work, and you're giving yourselves a chance to succeed by virtue of the fact that you're bringing everybody together to all pull together on the same rope at the same time. So I think you have an amazing bit of lightning in a bottle here. And I am looking forward, as you are successful, to begin to send people your way so they can learn from what you have done. Because this problem is a problem that is everywhere. And many people, leaders who don't have the other two, are looking for inspiration on how they can solve it. And I think Jefferson could be a place where it's a lighthouse for attacking this problem all across the United States. So, thanks for having us.
Well, that was amazing. Thank you, Alan. So inspirational. Just, one announcement, because that's our final speaker, but I wish we had more, because this is just incredible, is afterwards, when in about a minute this is over, the media is going to be talking, so if you guys would stay where you're at so the media can find you, and they're going to find you. There's just a barrier, but I'm sure they'll figure that out. But then we'll be around a little while to talk. I want to thank you. Thank yous. One, thank you, media, for coming, right? I don't know if you guys get thanked for it, but thank you. We want to bring hope to rural America, and with you coming here, you're helping share this story that we can actually do something to not just stop us from dying, but actually to cultivate and grow and become the leaders again of the nation. I'm inspired by Zach, too, on talking about where we're going to go with population. I don't want to wait till 2030, though, Zach. That's too long. We got to do this now here in Jefferson. Big thank you to the community. So much preparation. All the community leaders have been so awesome. RVP for letting letting us come, so many people behind the scenes. I want to thank, actually, shockingly, my employer, Accenture. So when I started this, I worked for Pillar Technology, and 350 employees, so very entrepreneurial. We could do stuff like this. And then Accenture bought us about 2 months ago, and I was like, 465,000 people, big company. What are they going to think about this rural initiative we're doing that everybody goes, what are you doing? And they didn't just say, wow, we support this and think it's great. They actually 3 weeks ago moved my position where this is me full-time doing R3, and this is all I'm doing now. So I'm very grateful to Accenture for that, because to make this spread, you've got to have the time, because this was not my day job doing this. So thank you, Accenture. But most importantly, thank you to, the people who came from Silicon Valley, Congressman Khanna, all of you who came, you flew, again, no direct flight, it's in the middle of winter. I know we told you it was a little warmer than it actually was, but it's not too bad. But, for you to come here to Iowa and partner with us and to speak and to come and to stay, because you couldn't even come in the morning and fly out at night, right? You had to stay the night. So what a great thing, and gracious, and we're just so grateful and thankful from here in Iowa. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, that's the program for tonight. Thank you for coming, and looking forward to seeing what's happening, and hopefully in June, Chris, we're going to do the grand opening of the Forge, and you'll be back to see it and do tours. Thank you all for coming.